intention. This is the fifth element. Okay, the fifth element to form a valid binding contract, that is intention, niat to create legal relation. Nak mewujudkan hubungan undang-undang, legal relation, maknanya they have the intention to make themselves bound to the contract, liable to the contract, having the obligations, having the liabilities under the contract. Mesti ada niat. Right, so how to determine the intention? This is the problem. We want to determine whether the parties have the intention or not. Dah tahu intention ni is very important to make a valid binding contract. If there is no intention, then the agreement is not valid. The agreement is not binding. But can we determine the intention of the parties? Let's say you deal with someone and then can you see whether that person having the serious intention to make a contract with you? Tak boleh tengok kan intention of the parties? Boleh ke kita tengok niat orang?
Tak boleh.
Tak boleh kan? Let's say A offer to sell his car to B, then B pun dah excited to have the car, right? And then B wants to continue to proceed, dia pun dah start make the payment. Tiba-tiba si A kata, sorry, I don't have any intention. Tak ada niat pun, main-main je. Dia kata tak ada niat, main-main je. So now, macam mana? That's why you need to determine. Okay, it is important for you to ensure that the parties having intention. Kalau dia kata main-main dah, you cannot claim anything under the contract. You cannot sue him or her under the contract. Okay, so that's why we need to determine the intention. Jadi, how to determine the intention? We don't have any sections under the Act. We just follow the common law practice. Common law ni bukan yang kita maksudkan undang-undang biasa. Common law means that it is the practice of the judges in the English courts, previous courts, where they make the decision in order to determine how to find out whether there is intention or not in the agreement. Okay, so judges ni dia buat decision, dia bagi formula how to find whether there is intention or not. So they make a formula by making a presumption of law. Andaian undang-undang, maknanya secara automatically we assume, we imply that there is intention or there is no intention in that kind of agreement. Right, so macam mana caranya? Kita divide the agreement into two classes. We determine by looking at the two classes of agreement, whether they are categorized as commercial or business agreement, or whether they are categorized as social, domestic and family agreement. So nak tengok ada intention ke tak? Tengoklah whether this agreement is a commercial or not, atau this agreement is a social agreement or not. I think you know the meaning of commercial agreement kan? Yang ada nilai-nilai commercial, perniagaan, selling, hiring, renting, right? All these are kind of agreement. So the law, the formula is that we presume there is intention. Caranya kalau it is a commercial agreement, kalau business agreement, making money atau profit agreement, that agreement is valid. Why? Because we presume there is intention, ada niat to make a valid contract. Jadi maknanya katakanlah si A propose ataupun offer to sell his car to B. So selling a car to the other party. So this agreement is a commercial agreement. So automatically we presume there is intention. In that case the agreement is valid. The agreement is binding. So tiba kata tadi let's say A kata tak, main-main je, tak ada niat pun. No. He is already bound to the contract because the agreement is a commercial agreement and that we presume that there is intention. Intention exists in the agreement. So, it is binding. Any questions so far?
No, madam.
Okay. So, these are the examples of the commercial agreement. So, exception unless in the agreement dia ada use certain clause. Dia sendiri nak rebut this presumption. Rebut ni maknanya tolak andaian tu, the party tu dia nak rebut the presumption, nak elak daripada being bound to the contract due to that agreement is a kind of commercial agreement, so we presume there is intention. So nak elak tu, rebut the presumption, they would use certain clause in their agreement. Contoh yang biasa digunakan yang ni, subject to contract, tertakluk kepada kontrak. So this is different dengan biasa apa yang you biasa dengar. You biasa dengar tak? Tertakluk kepada terma dan syarat.
Benar.
That bukan yang kita maksudkan kat sini. Okay, itu tertakluk pada term syarat, meaning that when you do the agreement, you are bound to all the terms of the contract. Right, whatever syarat, whatever condition, whatever terms of the contract, you are bound to that. Itu kata tertakluk pada term dan syarat. Tapi yang ini tertakluk kepada contract, meaning that the party here, when he make the contract, when he makes the agreement, okay, with the other party, dia nak mengelak to avoid ataupun to rebut the presumption of having intention tu. Dia nak elak tu, dia gunakan perkataan subject to contract, meaning that the agreement is not yet binding until the execution, the full ataupun final formal agreement. Let's say the example I mentioned just now. A offer to sell his car to B. Okay, so generally this is a commercial agreement. Kan, sebab dia nak jual kereta pada B. So this is a commercial agreement. So generally we presume there is intention. So the party atau meaning A here dengan B ni tadi bound to the contract sebab ada intention. However, kalau A kata, okay B, I would like to sell my car to you for this price, okay, but this agreement, this offer is subject to contract. Maknanya bila kata dia letak perkataan subject to contract, it means that even though B already accepted the offer, there is no contract yet until they make a full ataupun formal agreement. Kan bila A offer to sell his car to B, mungkin itu verbal agreement baru. Okay, by right walaupun verbal agreement, tapi kalau dia commercial agreement, it is binding dah, memang dah binding. Before this pun kita start dah belajar offer pun, saya kata kita boleh buat offer, kita boleh buat acceptance verbally, secara verbal boleh. Tapi kalau nak elak daripada being bound to the contract due to the presumption of intention tu, you kena letak subject to contract. Jadi maknanya selagi tak ada formal agreement, maknanya it is executed in writing, secara bertulis, secara rasmi. So in that case, selagi tu the contract is not binding. Do you get what I mean here?
Madam.
Okay. Alright, so next category of agreement, social. Perjanjian social, okay. Domestic, between family members, okay, ataupun internal agreement with your friends, social agreement with your friends, okay, with your family members, with your siblings, with your parents. All these kind of agreements are, apa dia? We presume there is no intention. Katakanlah si A, the husband promise to bring the wife to Dubai for vacation. Okay, to Dubai for vacation for their anniversary. So this agreement, the promise of the husband here macam nampak serius. Janji ni betul nak bawa pergi Dubai bercuti. But this agreement, since dia categorized under social atau domestic family agreement, in that case, this agreement ataupun this promise is not binding. That's why kalau you nampak case pun Balfour versus Balfour, Mr. Balfour versus Mrs. Balfour atau the other way around. Maknanya ni antara husband and wife. The agreement is assumed no intention. Kita presume no intention. In that case, it is not binding. Ni semula janji-janji nak having family gathering, having vacation with your you promise with your children, bagi hadiah. Okay, so all this having no intention. In that case, it is not binding. Kecuali lah it can be rebutted. Maknanya you want to make it serious, you want to make the agreement becomes valid and binding. It depends on the language being used ataupun the circumstances of each case. Maknanya kat sini it depends on the evidence. Contohnya lah tadi janji the husband, dia promise to to bring his wife to Dubai for vacation for their anniversary. Tapi to make it serious, to make it binding, the wife ni dia dah belajar law. Okay, so dia kata no, your agreement must be put into writing. The wife, they make the agreement binding by way, okay, she asked the husband to sign, okay, just on a piece of paper, I promise to bring my wife to Dubai for our vacation, for our wedding anniversary. Signed by the husband. So in these circumstances, the agreement is binding. Itu cara nak ribat tu. Sebab tadi presumptionnya no intention. Whatever social agreement, domestic, family agreement, the agreement is not valid. Why? Because there is no intention. Kita presume tak ada intention. Tapi kalau you rebut that presumption by using certain evidence, giving certain evidence, so that agreement is binding because of the circumstances atau the evidence lah, language being used and so on. Okay, that is intention. How to determine the intention? We divide the agreement into two categories. Social ke commercial? Kalau commercial, we presume there is intention binding. Unless you guna perkataan apa? Subject to contract. Okay. And then kalau social agreement, kita presume no intention. So, not binding. Unless you have the evidence to make it serious, to make it binding. Okay. So, itu tentang intention.